Okay, year 4. I noticed quite a number of you have been making the same mistake on your activity sheets from last lesson. So before we move on to anything else, I just wanted to explain something to you and hopefully clarify this mistake so that we don't do it anymore, okay? So a lot of you wrote in your coin toss investigations that you thought if a heads was tossed on the coin that it would mean a tails is more likely to follow. So I know in the example you guys were given, there was more heads drawn than tails, but this is actually a thing called gambler's fallacy. So when people go and gamble, they make all these decisions based on a pattern that they think might be happening there. So I just really wanted to explain to you guys so that you understand that this is not right. It's, we've got two sides on the coin, remember? Right? There's only two sides. So what does that mean? Yeah, exactly. So that means that there's only two options. So 1 out of 2. So this is known as half or 50-50, a lot of you like to call it. But I would prefer to call it an equal number of opportunity, okay? So what you actually experienced in that example was called experimental probability, where, out of the 10, there was actually more heads than tails. So it didn't quite look like it was even, or equal. It didn't look like it was 50-50. But just because there isn't an even amount doesn't mean that it changes, okay? So there is always a half chance, okay? It doesn't change. So I want to explain to you now. We're going to go through another example together so that you guys can actually see, and we'll see if we can change our minds now. Because every time we do it, it's going to be different. Let's have a go together. Let's go heads and we'll go tails. And we'll just do it out of 10. But if you do, the more, the larger amount of trials you do, the more you will see probably it to even out. But I suppose we don't have the time for that. So, all right, here we go. It's heads. It's heads again. Heads again. See? Is there a pattern here? No, you might think it's a pattern, but it's definitely not. It's still 50-50. There's still an equal chance that tails can be drawn or heads. And it's heads again. So basically, a lot of you would start thinking at this point, oh, it's got to be tails because you've kept drawing heads. Well, as you can see, we've thought that every single time, but it still keeps being heads. So it's still 50-50. Oops, we've lost the coin. And it's heads again. Oops, that's not right telling. And that's 5. 5 more. Oh, finally got tails. Tails again. Heads. 2 more. Oops, it's heads. And 1 more. Heads. See, what we can see here is, we've had a lot more heads than tails. And again, this does not accurately depict the theoretical probability. It's more of an experimental one. So in our experiment here, although we've had a 50-50 chance of it being heads and tails, we have found that, there's more heads than tails this time around. So basically, either way, it's 50-50, but as you can see here, it's always going to be different no matter, you can do so many trials and it's still a 50-50 chance. Just because there's more heads drawn here doesn't mean in future trials that it could be any different. Either way, it just depends on the probability, which is 50-50. So I hope that clears things a bit up for you a little bit more, so that next time when we do our worksheet, you might make a different sort of explanation or answer Thank you.